7, 6, 5, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Well, hey everybody, welcome to Freethought in Florida. Freethought in Florida is a production of the atheist community of Polk County. We're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. This is Friday, March 12th, 2021, the year of our Lord. I'm Sarah Ray. My co-host tonight is Devon. Devon Graham, how the hell are you?
I'm so here right now. Hi.
That's as good as it gets.
It sure does.
Before we get too far, we want to thank our wonderful patrons over at patreon.com/polkatheists. And we want to thank our newest patron, Devon.
That's me.
Thanks, Devon.
Everyone should be a patron of this show.
I agree. And you can be awesome like Devon and become a patron right now to support the ongoing production of the show. Again, we have a laptop issue that we're needing to resolve probably sooner than later. And so your monthly pledge will go towards things like that. And you can do that at patreon.com/polkatheists. And of course, if you can't do that, your stimulus money's coming, right? But sure. I get it. You got bills. And if you can't do that, please subscribe on YouTube. Subscribe, hit the bell so that you get notifications. Share out the episodes and help us reach a bigger audience. That would be super duper helpful. I believe we're having some issues tonight with Facebook not going live the way it should be. So they'll have to catch up with us. Yeah, they'll have to catch up with us in a minute, but I'm working on it. All right, so tonight we're going to talk about some more Florida legislative stuff.
Love it.
We wrapped up the final committee for the Moment of Silence bill in the House.
Yep.
So we're going to finalize that and see where that leaves us. And then there's more wonderful, egregious, horrible, garbage legislation that's on deck, that's moving, that's coming up that we're going to talk about too. And we'll open the phone lines and hopefully we'll get some of you to call in and chat about some of those things that we are worried about in the legislature.
Okay.
It's
fun.
Yes.
It's going to be so crazy.
So our guest tonight is Dusty Hosley, PhD. He's a postdoctoral researcher and co-chair of the AAR Sociology of Religion Unit at the University of California, Santa Barbara. Dusty, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
We're excited to have you. You're doing a thing in the research world that is, I would say, sorely needed when it comes to data on secular people. Why don't you tell us about the Secular Communities Survey and what you're hoping to accomplish there?
Yeah, the Secular Communities Survey is the largest ever survey of secular and non-religious people. And looking for joiners of secular communities, people who belong to a national organization like the American Humanist Association, FFF, the Freedom from Religion Foundation, or Secular Coalition for America, CFI, the Center for Inquiry, or perhaps a local chapter of the SSA, the Secular Student Alliance. Or perhaps you're a member of a local meetup group, or perhaps you're a member of a local Facebook group that also meets in person, or during COVID, you're meeting online, perhaps. So we're looking for people who are joiners of secular, atheist, agnostic, humanist. By that, we mean both secular humanists and religious humanists, Freethought organizations, and other groups for non-theists and non-believers. And we're have over 1,400 of these types of organizations. And we've reached out to people who are leaders of those groups to help encourage them to distribute our survey to their members. It went live March 1st, and the window closes April 11.
Awesome. I did notice when I took the survey that our friends at the Unitarian Universalist is an option among the list. So if you're listening and you're thinking like specifically oh, it has to be an atheist or humanist or whatever. There are some options that you may not expect when you hear the word secular. I'm curious, what got you interested in this line of study?
So for my PhD dissertation, I was studying actually the Universal Life Church. It's mostly a web-based church, but it actually began in the 1960s in California as a way for people to get ordained and perform their own ceremonies or to do nothing at all if they want. And so I started studying secular people, religiously unaffiliated people as part of that dissertation research. And I've continued to study mostly non-religious people since then. And then right now I'm working as a postdoctoral scholar at the University of California, Santa Barbara, and working under the direction of Dr. Joseph Blankholm, who's an assistant professor of religious studies at UC Santa Barbara. And he is the person who's maintained and gathered this list of over 1,400 non-believer organizations, which list he created with a fellow and scholar named Alfredo Garcia. And so we're continuing the work that he began, and he's a scholar of atheism and secularism in America. And we're working with a third researcher, Juan Navarro Rivera, who also has a PhD. And he is a political scientist and researcher, founded his own research firm called Socioanalytica. He's also an atheist activist and a public speaker, and also a board member of the American Humanist Association and a regular contributor to their newsletter, The Humanist. So all of us are secular people who have been studying secular people in the United States for many years.
You can probably talk a bit more to this, but it strikes me because like Devon and I are both engaged with American atheists on more than one level, and they commission a regular survey of folks as well. But they're really just like when I think about things like when we go to lobby legislative issues, that sort of thing, or even just communicating to the public about non-believers in your community. For the longest time, we just haven't had any data to work off of. And so now it seems like we're finally starting to get some of that data come through. And this just makes it even more robust. And so like over time, we'll just have, we'll finally have some really good data on what this segment of the population looks like, right?
Because I
Right.
think the Pew and the PRI surveys, they're always just classified as nuns, and that's not
right
informative at all. And so I think the American Atheist one from last year, I'm totally blanking on the name of it, and I need to know that. I have to know that. I'll be fired. I'm blanking on it though. But that was the first time I've ever seen them do subsets, like legit subsets of non-religious. And so are you expecting to have the numbers to be able to do those subsets, like to have a decent N or sample size?
Yeah, so you're right that there generally have not been very many studies, surveys, large-scale surveys of atheists or of freethinkers, agnostics, secular people. Usually it says, as you mentioned, Devin, the remainder, right? The nuns, defined by what people are not. And what we're trying to do with this survey, which is even slightly different than what the American Atheist survey that you just mentioned, the report they called Reality Check.
That's it.
The name of their report. But they studied broadly secular and non-religious people. We're specifically looking at joiners of communities for secular, atheist, agnostic, freethinker, humanist, etc. People who are non-believers or non-theists, and who join a community for whether that's a national organization, a local community, something that is completely local and not connected to a national organization, or perhaps it's an affiliate or chapter or subdivision of one of these larger organizations. Sarah, you mentioned including people who are UUA or Unitarian Universalists, where it was specifically reached out to the Unitarian Universalist Humanist Association members, American Ethical Culture organizations. We've reached out to the Congress for Secular Judaism, for example, secular and humanistic Judaism, ex-Muslim organizations, Black non-believers, Latinx freethinkers, right? So we are reaching out as broadly as we can to different types of communities, even the Satanic Temple, right, who are non-theists and identify as Satanists, right? So we're looking for a wide variety of different ways that people understand themselves to be non-theists or non-believers, and then trying to find out those people who are joiners of organizations for non-believers and trying to learn about their community life, level of civic engagement, their political values, and their social views. Mm-hmm. That's what we're trying to look at, and we will be able, Devon, to break them down into various subsets, such as for people maybe who left a religion and now identify as secular, or people who grew up in a secular home. We would like to find out what kind of political breakdowns do we see. There's an assumption in a lot of social science research that nuns, broadly conceived, the non-religious or religiously unaffiliated people, are contributing to the loosening. The growth of the nuns equals the loosening of social ties in America. The fraying of our social fabric is caused by the fact that fewer people are going to church or identifying with a particular religious tradition or denomination. And we're
I thought that was the gays that did that.
No, well, yeah, any number of stigmatized groups, right? Get blamed.
Oh no!
But the Venn diagram of gay and non-religious are that's a pretty heavy overlap too.
There's a lot of overlap there.
Yeah. So this is what we're trying to find out: is what are the social values, the political values, the levels of civic engagement that people who are secular joiners are engaging in. So it's an unstudied question, and so we're the first study this survey to try to find out the answers to those questions.
So when people log in and is it? I'm assuming it's totally anonymous. You don't. Okay.
Absolutely, completely anonymous. We do not ask any identifying information. There are a few text boxes, open-ended text boxes, where people could write in how they self-identify, for example, as perhaps they identify as a free thinker, or as a secular humanist, or however. And as presumably somebody could input their contact information or name. We're not asking for it, and so it's totally anonymous. We won't be able to identify anyone who's taking the survey.
So I think one of the issues that they had with the reality check one was that there's selection bias. There's a lot of selection bias issues. So are you addressing that at all?
Yeah, I mean, so the American Atheist Survey was largely done for members of American Atheists, and then they also tried to get a wider reach. We are specifically trying to survey people who are joiners of secular, and that we received a lot of emails about that, particularly from people part of the American Ethical Union or the Satanic Temple or Unitarian Universalist Humanists, like our use of secular, but there's no one good term that meets all of these groups. And so, we could have used non-believer or non-theistic perhaps, but that's generally the group we're trying to get to. And so the selection bias isn't there because we're actually trying to reach people who are joiners of these secular organizations, and that's precisely the types of groups that we're reaching out to and hoping will participate in the survey.
Gotcha. Interesting. So as someone who has done 2 postdocs themselves, how are you holding up?
That's a great question.
I don't miss those days.
No, I'm doing well. I'm here in Santa Barbara, California, which is a beautiful place to pandemic or no. I love this job. I love the people I work with. Dr. Blenkolm and Dr. Joom Navarra, Joe and Joom are just wonderful to work with. So I'm loving it. Thank you for asking. It sometimes it's precarious.
It's just it's a brave new world there. It's a whole different lifestyle. So what can people expect when they log in and what? So I see you're getting into political affiliations and specifically for joiners and whatever. So what kind of how in depth are you going and for each type of question?
Yeah, so we have a range of sections of the survey, and these include everything from religious life history, not to presume everyone was affiliated, but if they were, we're interested to know what perhaps religious or secular initiation rites have they perhaps gone through. We also ask about attitudes towards religion, attitudes towards secularity. We ask about political views and values and voting behaviors, as you'd mentioned. Secular identity, what labels people use for themselves. Modes of secular belonging, what organizations are people involved with? What does that level of involvement look like, or how long the duration of that involvement? Religious behavior and secular behavior. So what types of activities are people doing? Whether that's seeking health or whether that's trying to form other types of civic engagement. So, for example, are you a volunteer for any type of nonprofit or healthcare or animal rights or any other kind of donor or volunteerism that a particular respondent might engage in? We also ask questions about what types of secular organizations people, again, these are joiners. So are they a member of multiple groups? What groups are they a member of? How often are they participating? And then also secular influences and secular traditions. What websites, perhaps it's the atheist community of Polk County that people are engaging in. Maybe it's also that, plus they're an AHA affiliate, or perhaps a podcast they also listen to in addition to this one. So we're trying to understand the levels of community engagement on many different platforms and different modes of behavior and belonging.
So you mentioned podcast. I think that's one of the ways that people kind of dive into atheism and secularism. So do you think you could consider that a community? Like, because you see these huge social networks that like just revolve around particular podcasts or particular podcast groups. Like, would that be considered would those be considered joiners, I guess?
We leave that up to the individual respondent.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not they think of themselves as part of their community. So our screeners, in addition to reading a statement of your rights in terms of participating in the study and your confidentiality and anonymity, that sort of thing. Of course, you have to be 18 years of age or older to participate, and that's partly just because of our requirements from the university. But we also ask, are you a member, or have you been a member of a secular, atheist, etc.? And we don't define that. Mm-hmm. If a podcast listener thinks of themselves as part of this community, maybe perhaps you have listeners or participants of the atheist community of Polk County, and all they do is watch the YouTube later, or they watch YouTube live when you have the show. If they consider themselves a member of this community, if they think of this as a community, then they're welcome and eligible, and we'd love to have their participation.
Yeah, I think of groups like Seth Andrews, right, and the Thinking Atheist. There are a lot of people who, to your point, are just, that's the only engagement they have with the secular world, and they feel like they're the only one in their area, and they don't believe there's any groups, but there probably are, and they're definitely not the only one. But like many of us have been in that position of feeling that way, and so yeah, like that's. You find your community on a Facebook forum or a podcast network. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So our database, I mentioned that database of over 1,400 groups. Those are largely face-to-face groups, right? That actually meet, again, prior to COVID.
Pre-COVID, yeah.
Meet face-to-face. But we also have, there are people who maybe are on the AHA email listserv, and that's the extent of their participation. Maybe donate $10 a year, or they donated $10 3 years ago. But if they consider themselves a member of such a community, then they're welcome to take the survey. So it is a bit more specific than just a survey of atheists and agnostics in general. It's people who consider themselves members of a community.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have like any, since this is focused on joiners, I assume that like you're taking this from like a scientific viewpoint, so you can't get involved, but do you have any ideas of like, after this is said and done, of, I don't know, what do you plan to do after? Like, what are next steps?
So the survey concludes on April 11. We will be having another wave of promotions for the survey. So already I should add AHA, FFRF, the Friendly Atheists, they have all posted emails or on their newsletters or blogs, etc., promotions for the survey. So we're really grateful for that outreach, in addition to our individually contacting through Facebook, Twitter, and email these 1,400 communities that we've already identified. So we're we promote the survey here actually on Monday the 15th, and again before the window closes on April 11. In addition, after that, we will of course analyze all of this data, and that'll take a couple of months to analyze the data, to find trends, look for the nuances in the data that we received, and then we will begin presenting at academic conferences, but we will also publish material at, for example, AHA's The Atheist newsletter will publish a shortened, condensed version for the public. And we invite, if there are any secular communities, for example, leaders of secular communities or other people who are interested in finding the results of our survey, we are maintaining a list of contact information for those folks and groups that are interested in receiving our information. And so later this year, end of summer, probably the fall, when we have some of these public-facing reports to produce, we will distribute to all those people who sign up. You can see our email on our website, secularcommunities.com. The email is a mouthful. It's secular.survey@hfa.ucsb.edu. Again, you can just find it on secularcommunities.com. You can also tweet us at Secular Survey. We're on Facebook /Secular Survey. And so we welcome people reaching out to us, and we'd love to have you on our list of people who receive our report. I should say, lastly, of course, as academics, we'll also be publishing in academic journals this sort.
And we'll be happy to have you back on then to talk about what those results look like. I'm excited to see what you find out. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, we'd love to. We're excited to see what we find out, and I'd love to come back on here perhaps this fall and be able to discuss with you what we've found about the community life of non-believers.
Cool.
I'm curious, like, what group do you think is going to be the most responsive? Like, based on like the subsets, like like the humanist, the Satanist, atheist, free thinkers.
That's a great question. We've gotten tremendous, I can just say for sure, on emails, for example. We've gotten hundreds of emails already in response to the survey. Some folks trying to give us opinions about maybe ways to improve the survey, others saying that they want to be included on the list of people who receive information about our findings. A lot of people from AHA and FFRF have responded. So I think we've gotten a lot of interaction with members of those two groups. But we've also gotten, responses from people who are Unitarian Universalist humanists, from American Ethical Union organizations. We've gotten some responses from local SSAs from various university chapters of secular student associations. But by far, I think the biggest respondents so far have been AHA and FFRF.
Cool. I have one final request. Is there something that you can do about the data that we gather in I know this is, you can't. So I need census data. And when I say that, I mean, when I go to a local elected official, right? Our organization operates at a county level. And there is a website that forced redirects you to garbage half the time, called bestplaces.net, and it has some survey data breakdown for like our county. It's easily 10 years old, and it doesn't break down the secular categories beyond that either, right? So it's like I need to be able to go in and say like, hey, X% of this, the people that live in this area, in the city, the county, whatever, like at a deep granularity, identify as a non-believer or whatever. And that just does not exist. It exists at a little bit of a broader level. I can say, X% of Floridians or of Americans, but I want that granularity.
I want zip code data.
Yeah,
that's what I'm talking about.
There was a American secular census at one point. I think that may have been 2013 or so. That was trying to strive for that level of granularity. Most surveys just don't have enough respondents to be able to say definitively at that census zip code level, county level. And in addition, of course, because of the separation of church and state, whatever was left, we have the census collecting data about religious affiliation here in the United States. So I will add, and perhaps make a plug for an article written by Joe Blankholm, our lead researcher on this project. He published an article in the Journal for the Scientific Study of Religion back in 2016, based on the earliest version of this database of non-believer organizations. And it showed that the counties and zip codes with the greatest propensity and percentage ratio of evangelical Protestants and conservative Christians were those counties and zip codes that had the most likelihood of having an atheist or non-believer organization. And the reddest counties had the largest number of atheist and secular non-believer organizations. So it's not the case that blue states or urban enclaves are the heart of American non-believer organizations. It's actually in the reddest, red states.
I can totally see that though, because we're the ones that need to fight back.
We're forming as a response to overreach. Yeah.
Whereas like we're like in New England, it's like who cares?
Anyway. All right. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show to share with us. One more time, plug the website where people can go to take the survey and learn more and contact you all and sign up for the data and all of that.
Yeah, it's secularcommunities.com, and then that will actually redirect you to a UCSB website, but secularcommunities.com. And the Twitter, if you're interested, is Secular Survey, @Secular Survey. You can also find us on Facebook at Secular Survey. We would welcome any and all contact, and we would love your participation in the survey. Again, it closes April 11. Look forward to rejoining you on this show in the fall.
I do have to say before you go, I was catching up on podcasts today, and I was listening to Scathing Atheist, and they were talking about your survey, and they actually, because I think the link they had was the really long one. It was like whatever // whatever SB, what I don't know. And so they actually bought a site for atheismsurvey.com, and it redirects to your site.
Oh, that's great.
I tested it out today. It does redirect to your site.
Oh, that's wonderful. Okay.
Oh, that's great.
Thank you. That's why we bought that secularcommunities.com thinking that would be something. And I should hoping to do future iterations of this study to focus on additional themes. Maybe every 2 years we do a new wave of the study to find out more. Sarah, as you mentioned, trying to get more of this information about ever-growing population in America, so we can know more about the values, beliefs, and forms of behavior and belonging.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you so much, Dusty. We'll let you go, and we'll talk to you again maybe sometime in the fall.
I'd love it. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks you.
For coming by.
Thank you. Take care.
All right. Good times.
Hooray. We did it.
You're having postdoctoral flashbacks, are you?
Yeah.
PTSD. So I learned during all of that YouTube was slow to kick on the stream too. So for those of you that missed, for those of you that missed the beginning of the thing, it'll put when it posts after the show, it's all been recorded and you'll have the full the full interview and the full episode and on the podcast players and all of that. But essentially, we want you to go take this survey if you are particularly engaged in a secular community of any sort, of national or regional or local secular community. Go to secularcommunities.com and take that survey that will help us get more data on, our community, on the atheist community, as if there is such a thing, but broader than that too. So anyway, go take the survey. That's the long and short of it, and then we'll have Dusty back on in the fall to talk about that data and what it looks like, and that's going to be interesting.
Yeah. Repeats.
So, so we're gonna move now into talking about the Florida legislative session.
Fun
I'm
stuff.
gonna open up the phone lines if you'd like to call. Did I give you the right number? I wrote down a completely different number. You can. This is so new. So somebody please freaking try it. It's 253-900-2272, 253-900-2272. And we would love to hear from you. You're welcome to call in about any of these topics that we're going to be addressing, or things that you've heard in the Florida legislature that you might be interested in talking about. Anything with a particular church-state separation lens, or there are several that are, civil rights related things that are on our plate as well.
Oh yeah.
So let's start with wrap up of the House Committee marathon for the moment of silence.
It's over.
It's over. Well, it's over in that it goes to the full House now.
It goes to the full House now. It goes full on Olsen twin full House. Yeah. We can't testify. There's not much that we can do other than call our representatives and ask them not to vote for it. But
right.
We are in Florida, so.
For those of you who have not been watching the last few weeks where we've have discussed this at length, essentially the bill creates let's just let Rep. Fine explain to you in his own words.
It's a simple idea.
Well, it's very simple. This is a very simple bill. Here, let me make sure that I have this set up to start so that we can. Yeah. All right.
You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It would be no
Oh,
different
no.
than students causing disruption.
It didn't start at the beginning. Bloody hell.
Oh, well, I mean, I can explain this very simple idea.
I'm going to reset it.
Part of the day. It's not
I was going to reset
You can
it.
see me getting all
Yes.
fired
Oh,
up in the background.
you in the background. That was the best part of the whole thing.
Well, you're trying to figure that out. I should say that, this was the first committee I've been on in the House side, which had, I don't know, there were so many crazy bills going on. The first one was about, I'm blanking on it. It was like the post-secondary education bill, which is pretty much people think that conservative voices are being censored on campus. So
Right.
on higher ed campuses, so we have to make sure everyone gets a say, and students are allowed to record and put their professors' talks on social media if they want to. But it's also, there's a caveat that says the professor has to approve, and I think isn't that what we have already? I don't know.
Right.
But someone from Phyllis Schlafly's organization got up and just went off on cancel culture. And I didn't know that I was right on the camera's view, and I rolled my eyes significantly.
It was so good. It was so good.
It was so bad. It was so bad.
All right, I'm gonna restart this now.
Here we go.
Yeah. All right, hold on, because I got to make it. All right, here we go.
To explain House Bill 529.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm pleased to present House Bill 529 today. This bill is a very simple bill. It would create a mandatory 1 to 2 minute moment of silence where students can engage in silent reflection at the beginning of every school day in our public government run as well as charter schools, and that is the bill.
And
That's it.
That is the bill.
Thank you, Representative Fine. Are there questions on the bill? Representative Hudchopsky.
Oh, jeez.
Hudchomsky.
How awkward was that?
Come on. Come on. Come on.
So that is the bill. There have been great questions brought up by other representatives throughout this process, right? Why is it only public schools that we're legislating this upon? Which is a fantastic question. Although the answer to that is probably, well, the religious private schools are already, praying 16 times a day anyway. So
voucher schools aren't always religious, right?
You're right.
In Florida?
Yeah.
Not really. Yeah. I mean, they're getting just as much public funding sometimes as the public ones. So
Oh yeah.
let's.
And there are bills in the pipeline that would expand that even further.
Yep.
We'll get to that.
You're
We'll get there.
recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Representative Fine, I posed a question in the last committee regarding my concern that this could be used as a tool to kind of discipline students or teachers if there was a struggle in keeping a student quiet. And you said you would look into it, so I just wanted to follow up on that.
You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It would be no different than students causing disruption in any other part of the day. It's not sort of anything specific. This isn't a cudgel to be used with students.
Okay, that's kind of a boring, nothing question and answer.
Whatever.
Are there, do you have follow-up? Or okay. Are there any other questions of Representative Fine? All right. Are there appearance cards?
That's it. No
I
other
was falling
questions.
asleep. Falling
No
asleep.
other questions.
There have been some very spirited discussions with this bill so far, and including one by Representative Hunchovsky. There was a big thing with her because she is the former mayor of Parkland when the Parkland shooting went down, and Representative Fine said that this could have prevented Parkland or something like it, and she lost it. So,
Yeah, I don't think he implicitly said that, but it was very
implied.
deeply implied that
implied.
school shooters are because we don't have moments of silence at the beginning of the day. Yeah.
Yeah, that was it. And this is the full education committee. So this is a big one. This is the final stop for this bill. So
Right.
yeah, disappointing.
Barbara Devane, Florida National Organization for Women. Oh, I'm sorry. She waives in opposition. Kara Gross, American Civil Liberties Union, waives in opposition. And Devon Graham from, I believe is here, from the American Atheists. And you are recognized.
Before you go, so those are some pretty strong organizations in opposition.
Yeah, they're not the JV League. It's National Organization of Women, ACLU. I don't know. Maybe they should have some credence there. What do I know though? I don't know. I obviously don't know anything.
Well, let's hear what you know.
Okay.
This was actually a collaborative effort here.
This is very much Sarah wrote this one for the most part. I needed all the help I could get. I was done.
Well, we'll play it and then I'll talk.
Okay.
Thank you. Full disclosure, I had a dental procedure today, so I can't feel my face, so please bear with me. I'd like to start by saying that once again, any child in the United States has the opportunity to pray or have a moment of silence if they so choose, as long as it's not disruptive or infringes upon the rights of others. The statute that HB 529 is amending already allows for any district in Florida to institute a moment of silence. This bill is completely unnecessary. Representative Fine has said in these meetings in the past that solving a problem is like eating an elephant. You have to do it one bite at a time. I also have an animal saying, although it's not quite nearly as clever, and that's if it looks like a duck and walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. This bill looks, walks, and quacks like an effort to sneak prayer back in schools. We've all seen the legislation over the years designed to do exactly that, and Georgia is doing this as we speak. So you can surely understand why the red flags go up for me. That said, let's assume good intent. Let's say this bill isn't about prayer or religion at all. Then what is it? We've been told that kids are stressed out and they need to be able to center themselves. And I don't disagree. Where I disagree is whether or not this piece of legislation actually accomplishes that. So we mandate 1 to 2 minutes of silence, but don't give students the option to opt out, nor do we give any advice on what to do that could help center them. Instead, we leave it to parents to advise their children. This doesn't do anything to help the students whose parents say nothing at all or just sit there and doodle. If the purpose is to get students calmed down and centered, it fails on that goal. Perhaps we should have a conversation instead about teaching mindfulness and meditation as part of PE or health class, and then extend that to the morning classroom routine. I might even go with you on that part. But this bill states a problem and then fails to address it. I'm not here to be hostile towards religion. I'm not even in total disagreement about the stated problem we're hoping to improve. I disagree on the merits. And if getting our kids to center themselves and prepare for the day is the goal, then this bill is the bite of the elephant that just isn't worth taking. Thank you.
How dare you?
Rage! The steam coming off that man's head. So much vapor.
Now, I thought, as your ghostwriter, I thought that was really compelling. Again, we had made the argument, you had made the argument that, boy, this sure seems like we're trying to put prayer back in school. And that gets shot down with, well, the word prayer is actually taken out of the old code in this bill, so it's not that. It can't be that. So yeah, if it's not that, then what is it? And if it's about helping kids prepare for the day, then you're not doing it right. Like, this doesn't do it. So
yeah, I mean, I think we've gone after every angle in these past three committees that we possibly could. We went the bullying, the prayer, oh God, I don't even remember all of them. They just all kind of meld together in my head. But
the thing here is, I wish that you had gone last. I don't know that would have made any difference. So this is the other thing. Like, Devon and I talk offline about how disheartening this stuff is, because in a lot of ways, these people know walking in the door. I have 3 bills on the docket today. I know how I'm voting for them. It doesn't matter what you come in and say. And so it's the reminder to ourselves of, like, yeah, that's not necessarily why we're going, right? We're going to help educate the public, anybody who might be watching, on, raising some of those concerns. And if it makes a representative think a little harder about something, great. But that there are other benefits and goals to going and doing that sort of testimony.
Yeah.
But it's frustrating. Like, I get that it's hard to just feel good and keep going after.
I mean, so after the first committee, like, I had a representative email me saying that I was going to vote yes on this, and you actually convinced me to vote no, that there are problems. And that's the first time I've ever heard of anyone, like, going in and changing their mind. And I mean, it went down party line vote, that first committee. So that was
Right.
great. That was really great. But
Okay.
right.
So then the rabbi is next, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for
Sharla
being here.
Zadikov.
Oh my God, this guy.
She is a supporter. Rabbi Orickman. You are recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, members, for taking the time for this important bill. And you ask yourself, going around, you ask an average young adult why they don't speed. The answer you get is because I'll get a ticket. But that's not the answer that you want to hear. You shouldn't just speed because it's unsafe and it's putting their life in a hazard. They should really not speed because it's morally and fundamentally wrong to do so.
I'm sorry, is it morally wrong to speed? Anyway.
I am so immoral.
So much of today's behavior ends people in trouble because they think they'll outsmart the policeman, or that no one is watching me, or maybe a crime is worth the punishment. But what about don't do it because it's morally wrong? So there's a simple solution with that. Today, more than ever before, schools, especially Florida schools, are a beacon of light and dedicated to educate children of today to become the adults of tomorrow. Our state schools are completely devoted to the students and their education, and the youth of today feel that. But yet some students focus on academic achievement alone. Kids are vying to be accepted to top kindergarten, let alone high school, colleges. And then what? I'll have a good job, a great career. But what can further help to ensure the moral and ethical behavior? The values we crave to see in others that we hope to find in a spouse. When will every student from across the spectrum have the time to devote and to develop the core qualities that make us the human beings that we are, what makes us unique and special? So this Bill moment of silence mandates that in the start of every day, every child will have the time to implement these important values and ethics. The values that are taught in their homes, in everyday life. And this bill ensures that the parents will be talking to their children about these values and tell them this is what you should think about when you go to school during this moment of silence. There'll be a moment of silence, time to reflect on these ethics and these moral behaviors that are important to them and their families. We're not talking about a moment of prayers necessarily. It's saying about trying to get prayers in school. That has been thrown out of the court, and this is clearly not a bill about prayers. This is a bill simply about moments of silence. No one can impose any students what to think of during this time. What position should be sitting, bowing, standing, sitting. Just simple moment of silence, moment of reflection, moment of meditation. A child should indeed ask their parents what they should think about. And that's what this bill does.
Sorry, I got to interrupt. A child should, but a child is not.
No kid talks to their mom and dad about this shit.
Right?
Also,
Right.
This is not an attempt to get prayers back in schools, says the rabbi.
Right.
Come on.
Right. And I felt some type of way, like I was the first committee where like the only people who came and spoke in support of this were the two rabbis.
Mm-hmm.
And then we later found out that they're involved with an organization that's like a statewide push to bring, nationwide push to bring.
I don't want to give
moments
them
of silence
any
or-
traffic, but it's like momentofsilence.info or look up moment of silence on the internet.
Yeah, don't do that
find
either.
it. I will never do it again. Sorry.
No. Yeah, it just there's so many flawed points that they're making in this that are easily refuted.
But there's no rebuttal. Like you just
Right.
you can literally say whatever you want,
And it hits the Teflon and bounces.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I do have a bit of a confession. When I was trying to live tweet when this was going on, and I didn't understand what he said, and I thought he was talking about speaking at the beginning and not speeding. And I'm like, why is speaking so immoral? Like I totally didn't. It makes a little more sense, but not that much. Okay.
Right.
Whew.
Okay.
I feel bad about that.
Well, you have some tweets to delete now. Okay.
Oof.
Teachers are not allowed to tell them what to think about during this time. Let's clearly address the prayer issue. This is no prayer. And this will have a tremendous results.
Sorry. So this isn't about prayer. What if I advise my child, hey, you're going to have 2 minutes of silence every morning. You better talk to Jesus during that time.
If I hear your head is not bowed, so help me God.
Somebody commented, I don't remember what post it was about this. It might have been our action alert. But somebody commented something about little Johnny gets out his Baphomet statue and sets it on his desk. And I said
that last year.
That's what it's going to take. It
did not go well.
No. But yeah, so it does open it up to prayer because we're not saying what kids can or can't do at that time. And like, can you not do it before the bell rings? Like, they're so. So it is in a way about prayer, because it enables prayer. And you made this point that once you do that, then it's God. In some of these places, you're the one kid that doesn't bow their head during the 2 minutes of silence, and suddenly you're, Satanist
Pariah.
Johnny, and the kids in the class are gonna give you all kinds of hell of why aren't you doing this thing that we all do, and the bullying starts.
I mean, I don't know. Everyone thinks Florida's Miami, and it's not Miami. There's more. There's a lot of redneck and
The
rural
further
areas
north you go, the further
the more
south you
southern
get.
Yep.
Coming day of academic achievement and indeed ultimate career now is going to be centered around the values that the students incorporated into their daily lives by actually taking the time to think about these values. If you take one moment in your day to think about the amazing qualities of your spouse and how much they mean to you, don't you think that will become a better life partner? You take one moment a day to think about.
Do I take one moment of day to think about my spouse that beats me? Is that going to make it all better? I don't know. Maybe I'm just being extra right now, but
a little bit extra.
one of the things that he said a minute ago that I lost track of in our conversation was about like how this will have such a great impact. Demonstrate it then.
Where is
Show me the fucking data. Yes.
Where are the data?
Show me the data. It's being done in other places. I'm telling you, there's got to be. If
data.
it's yes, exactly.
About
It's better.
our children. Now they are part of our lives. They're part of who we are. Won't we become more loving parents? If we take 1 minute every day to think about all the kindness that we receive from our parents, wouldn't we become better and more effective children? If every child in Florida would take just 1 moment every school day to reflect how to become a better person.
These are lots of claims that require evidence to demonstrate. Yeah, it sounds good on paper.
Sure does. I can say flowery things too.
Right.
I can say things that make you feel good.
This is the just hang in there kitten poster on the wall.
Sure is. It sure is. Oh.
To think of the morals and values dear to them, to think about their responsibilities of being contributing members of society. I believe, and Justice Midi Lubavitch-Rebbe talked about it many times, that our state will continue to be a shining example of indivisible society, conscious of providing liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi. Members, we're in debate. Is there any debate?
Any debate at all? Any debate at all? Anybody?
Going twice. Anybody?
Are you all awake this afternoon?
Are you all awake?
All right, I guess there is no debate. And I was going to mention, and I don't often debate, but I was watching some of the previous subcommittees on this bill, and this is not directed at any member of this committee or any other committee, but this is the exact same bill that we saw last year. And last year, it sailed through every committee, every single member, Republican and Democrat voted for it in every committee. And then on the floor, a handful of my friends on the other side of the aisle voted against it, and I believe one or two Republicans voted against it. And, I haven't seen the same, bipartisanship, so to speak, this year. And the difference between this bill and last year's bill is the person who sponsored it and the party who sponsored it. And so that's just something that I wanted to point out. But nevertheless, it's a good bill, whether a Republican sponsors it or a Democrat sponsors it. So on that note, Representative Fine, you are recognized to close on your bill.
Okay, before we close, take a minute to talk about who that was last year and the bipartisanship claim and all of that.
So last year it was sponsored in the House by Kimberly Daniels of Jacksonville.
Demon Buster Daniels?
Demon
Buster Daniels. Okay, and she was a Democrat. Yes,
does not vote as a Democrat. Like
Right.
it's just there's nothing Democratic about her other than the fact that no one runs against her in Jacksonville, and it's a fairly blue area, so they're going to vote for the Democrat. That's why she was always elected. Luckily, she's not.
I was gonna say, and to be clear, she is no longer in the House. And also she was I want to say there was she was under investigation for fraud related to her church, right? Like she
missed
some assets that she didn't something she didn't report.
Her husband was like arrested, or there was
some drama.
Issue. There was a lot of drama. There's a lot of drama.
Okay, so anyway, she carried the bill last time, and it got shot down on the floor.
No. This is where this is really freaking egregious to me.
Okay.
It went through. I believe there were some people voting no against it in the committees. And it doesn't matter if it's completely partisan for this, because we are Republican controlled. Therefore, there are always more Republicans on the committees than Democrats. Every single Democrat could vote no on this.
And it wouldn't matter. It would still go through.
It would not matter a single thing. Even on the House floor where it did pass.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he wanted just this to be a unanimously supported vote, which who cares? Unless it's like he gets a gold star for that. But that was the most egregious thing about that. It doesn't matter if everyone voted partisan or not, because it was going to go through. And I am no optimist or anything. I'm a total cynic. But even at that, I know that this was a fairly lost cause from day one.
Sure.
From last year, I knew this was a lost cause. But it's, as we said before, it's about getting the message out and whatnot. So
all right, let's wrap it up.
What he said was egregious, and I'm really angry about what Ledvala said. So let's go on. Let's carry on.
Noted.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It may be because I'm sponsoring it. It may not be a partisan thing. Since the speaker in opposition, I'm going to be brief. It mentioned my story about the elephant. The story is, how do you eat an elephant? You eat it one bite at a time. And the reason
that's what you said.
I believe that's what I said. Can you mansplain that again to me?
The reason I say that is because we do have a systemic problem in our society. We have a systemic problem with our children, whether it's their suicide rates or mental health, or the fact that children will go into schools and do things that they never would have done 20 or 30 years ago. Where I went to high school, half the kids had guns hanging in the racks in the pickup trucks when they went to school. Yet it never occurred to anyone to take one of those inside. There is something going on with our children.
Sounds like North Florida to me. Or maybe, I don't know, Alabama.
Anywhere in rural U.S. But
right.
Children. And while this bill will not solve the entirety of the problem, probably no bill will, it is that one little bite by giving students that chance at the beginning of the day to be centered. Now, I want to clarify a couple of things. The speaker said any student has the right to a moment of silence. It's not true. You can't just say, hey, stop, teacher. We're in the middle of algebra. My son would do this. We're in the middle of algebra. I want to stop. I want my moment of silence. No, if the school board hasn't chosen to give students that option, they do not have it today.
And that's not what we said.
That's not even true. It's not remotely true. However, if I had a kid who raised his hand in my class and said, hey, teacher, I need to go to the bathroom, I would say, no, you can ask politely.
Right.
There's a way to do that. There's a way to ask things and not be disruptive. And that's the whole point of having your individual moment of silence or prayer. You can do it. Don't be disruptive. Don't infringe on the rights of others. You can have that. Maybe you have to wait till the end of class or something. but
Right.
you can have it. That's the law of the freaking land.
Well, and we talk all the time about, the minority religions that often aren't thought of in these things. And if you're a Muslim kid and you need to pray 5 times a day and 2 of them are during school, fine. I'm fine with that.
Totally.
We'll give you the time to go and do what you need to do and then come back. I don't have a problem with that at all.
And that was brought up at the last committee meeting where there was a Muslim member, and he said I had to go through this, and
Yeah.
they allowed me to do it. What he's referring to is in the mandate that any school district can mandate it within the school district. So
Right.
that's what he's talking about. So it can be district wide, but any individual student can do this on their own.
Okay.
I want to just close with one story. I'm telling too many stories about my family today, but I will close with one story. I have a 7th grader. He just had his bar mitzvah last weekend. And this year he went from a private Episcopal school to a public school. He's a Jewish kid. And he didn't have a moment of silence. He had a 35-minute moment of silence every day when he sat through chapel of a religion he does not subscribe to.
Now, we've talked about this last time. You sent him to a religious school that is not of his religion, and you should expect that.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that was not a public school.
If it were a public school, then you should be outraged.
You should be with us.
Right. But you chose to send him to a school that is of a different religion, that is specifically a religious parochial school. So this story doesn't count, bro.
Yeah, this doesn't make much sense, but I mean, whatever.
And then this year he goes to public school. And I will tell you that as I have watched him struggle with that transition, a big part of that struggle has come from he went from having 35 minutes, which we're not advocating here, at the beginning of every day to think about the world and to reflect on his values and things like that, to nothing and just going in and getting slammed at the beginning of the day. And it has been a struggle. And
It's been a long time since I've been in school. We don't get slammed into the beginning of I have 2 kids. They're both in school. They're in remote school, which very similarly mimics the classroom experience. My kindergartner, for example, starts the day with about 5 freaking videos about the good morning song and the days of the week and like whatever. Like it's a slow ease into the day. I have a 5th grader, same thing. Like they sign in, they have math warm-ups. It's slammed into the day. Like you're not walking into a trig assessment every
this
day.
Boot camp. This is a boot camp. Like my kids, one's in middle school, and he says he has to sit on the tennis court for 30 minutes before class will even start. It's like,
and that's plenty of time to have your moments of silence.
They've got plenty of time. No good teacher would slam slam in at the start of the day or whatever he's trying to talk about.
My 5th grader is all pre-COVID, of course. He rode the bus to school. Plenty of time to prepare yourself for the day or whatever it is. Anyway.
So when I thought about running this bill, I asked him, I said, Jacob, do you think this would be a good idea? And he said, yeah, Dad, I do think it would be. It would give me that time that I miss from my old school. Every child can benefit from a time, whether you're Jewish or Christian or you don't believe in God at all. Every child will benefit from this time to be centered before the beginning of the day. And with that, I ask for your favorable support.
Now, before we do the vote, again, the issue isn't providing the time. The issue is that you're providing the time without providing the resources, without providing the background, the lessons on. You're expecting, and I know this is a party thing, but you're expecting that all parents are you. Well, I'm here to tell you they're not. A lot of these kids' parents they're not involved for one reason or another. They're working 3 fucking jobs just to pay the bills because we don't pay a living wage in this country, for example.
And they're also not giving them the option to opt out.
Right.
Like that's kind of key.
And his argument back to that was really weird too. Of like, well, what are they going to do to opt? Like, if they just don't do anything, that's opting out. What are they going to be like? Throw a football around and make a bunch of noise? No,
No, this is not how society works. I'm sorry. This is what you see on like Fast Times at Ridgemont High. This is not real life. Come on. Come on.
All right. So let's put it to a vote.
Let's vote.
Thank you, Rep. Fine. Missy, please call the roll.
Representatives Alupis, Andrade,
Yes.
Arrington,
Yes.
Bell,
Yes.
Ferrero,
Yes.
Bush,
Yes.
Fine,
Yes.
Harding,
Yes.
Hawkins,
Yes.
Penchowski,
Yes.
Lamarca,
Yes.
Mariano,
Yes.
Maney,
Yes.
McLean, McCurdy,
Yes.
Morales,
Yes.
Trabulsi,
Yes.
Tuck,
Yes.
Valdez,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Chair Latvala,
Yes.
20 yeas, 0 nays.
By your vote of 20-0, House Bill 529 will be reported favorably.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for bringing it home for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Not a single vote in opposition. Stop it. Jeannie has a great one in the chat about, oh, my kid doesn't get his 35 minutes or whatever. Hey, Dad, I'm really bummed that I don't have 30 minutes every day that I get to zone out and don't have to learn a thing. Yeah, there's 30 minutes that all the Christian kids have to go do the Christian thing, and you just get to fuck off for half an hour.
Whatever you want.
I'd miss that too.
Oh, I'd miss that free time.
Right?
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. So
So anyway, that moves to the full House, and the Senate is not. What are they doing?
they, as of yesterday, I haven't checked today.
Okay.
They were supposed to release the schedule for. I should have checked beforehand. They released the schedule for next week today or early Monday morning, and it hasn't been. The second committee has not been scheduled
Right.
yet. So
Okay.
there's that.
Yeah.
There's that.
Here's another thing that I want to touch on as we tie the bow on this thing and hopefully set it on the shelf for at least a while, because I'm sure people are tired of hearing about it.
I am.
Is this really the important stuff that we need to be working on right now as
We
as a
are
state?
in
This
a
is
goddamn pandemic.
right.
We
Yes.
have an unemployment system that does not work. There is so much going wrong with Florida right now.
Yes.
And
And this
what are
is
we
what
going
we're
to do?
dealing with.
This is what we're focusing on.
Yep.
It boggles the mind. It really does.
Yeah.
I am seriously depressed over this.
Given one more opportunity to write a speech, I would probably include that of this is seriously this meeting lasted an hour and 10 minutes or whatever. This is what our time is worth. That particular bill in the third committee was 15 minutes, and that's the shortest of the three.
That's fast. Yeah.
This is really what we need to be spending our time on. Get real. So let's talk about some of the other bills that are coming through that we have our eyes on. Where do you want to start? This is the beauty of not planning at all.
We can do whatever we want. So I think
and call us 253-900-2272 253-900-2272. Call us. Let's talk. I want to hear what you guys think about this stuff.
So we have talked about the Parental Bill of Rights or the Parental Bill of Wrongs before. I don't know if we want to start with that.
I like to call that the Parents' Ownership Doctrine or Ownership Manual. And
it's accurate.
While I'm on this thought, I can't remember which. I've watched so much legislative TV lately, Florida Channel stuff.
Florida Channel's great.
But somebody said something about this. Damn it, what was it? I've lost my train of thought. They kept saying authority over your children.
It was Baxley. It was Baxley who was saying that.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Yes, you should have authority over your children, and I just couldn't. That is just the most evangelical bullshit.
It makes my butthole clench. It's just, it's just, I was having little flashbacks of growing up, and I'm gonna get my ass beat. Oh my god,
yeah,
sinning. Yeah, that was that was awful. That was
Yeah.
awful.
My response to that this whole thing, and we can go through point by point here, but like, I don't own my kids.
Mm-hmm.
I am a steward of them,
Mm-hmm.
and I yes, I have legal responsibility on many things,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't own them. They are unique, individual, free-thinking people
Mm-hmm.
that have their own thoughts and their own views about the world and their own
Yep.
things. And so if we're going to have a parent's bill of rights, we better have a children's bill of rights to protect the children from their freaking parents that want to exercise authority over them.
Why didn't we come up? Why aren't we legislators?
We could
Could
be.
have done this.
We could
be. Technically, we could be. But,
I mean, once upon a time, I thought I had just way too much damning audio out in the universe of all those podcasts and stuff that I've done and things that I've said.
Mhm. Yeah.
But then I remember that, we elected Demon Buster Daniels over and over and over again, and a giant toddler to the highest office in the land. And I could probably do that.
We could totally do it now. We're fine.
Yeah.
We're okay.
Yeah. Apparently you can do anything and still get elected. So what is this bill? What are some of the high points? What does this thing do?
So this is a bill that will pretty much destroy any trust a child will have with their parents in terms of privacy. So a lot of the talking points that have been put out have been in terms of like LGBTQ kids. So if a child, and let's go under the assumption that this bill is under is that the writers of this bill are under is that every parent is a good parent. Every
They're
home
all us.
is a happy home.
Right.
Yeah. And everyone wants what's best for their kids. And that is not how real life works.
Mhm.
So if a child is having issues, they may be gay, they are maybe atheist, they may be something, and they go tell their school counselor or they tell a teacher, the parents can request any of those records and they will have to be divulged to the parents. It doesn't matter like how sensitive it is or like,
and we're
or
talking
anything.
things like that a kid came out or that they're a member of a particular club at the school.
Yep.
That sort of thing.
Yeah, and it's just really basic stuff. And there's probably a reason why the child is talking to someone else that's not their parents
Yes.
or not a relative or not a friend.
Yep.
There's a reason why that's happening, and that just kind of takes that out of the picture. So
That was my first response was like,
Mhm.
if you pass and I think I sent this in a letter to legislators.
Mhm.
If you do this, like, you're very likely taking away some of these kids' only trusted adults.
Mhm.
Like, they
School is like
can't.
the safest place for these kids. Some of these kids,
Yeah.
safest place, and it's
And
no
we need to
longer.
trust our teachers to know
Mhm.
their kids and counselors and
Mhm.
right, like, to know their kids and
Mhm.
know what
Mhm.
like, they do this for a living. They
Yeah,
know what
they
to
know what
look
the hell they're
for. They
doing.
know what the red flags
Yeah.
are. They know when it's a parental involvement
Mhm.
thing and when it's not. Like, I'm sorry, I trust the educators to make that call more
Mhm.
than I trust the legislators to legislate that
Totally.
call.
Absolutely. And then that's another thing too, is like teachers build the relationship with their students
Mhm.
based on trust. Counselors are held to an ethical code that they cannot divulge private information.
Right.
And both of those are just like blown out the window. So that's one of the big things, one of the main issues with this bill. Let's keep in mind that this bill is also kind of like a composite bill. It's taking bits and pieces that are already in our statutes or
Right.
already in there and just putting them all in one place, and which in a way kind of markets them or publicizes that, hey guys, we have these like really sweet exceptions that you can take advantage of.
Mhm.
And so some of them include like we don't have to immunizations are no longer you don't have to have immunizations to get into school. You can opt out of classes if like so. Obviously, sex ed and evolution are ones that
Right.
come into play a lot, at least with Christian and or very religious families. But you can also have people who deny the Holocaust, and their kids going to get pulled out of history class, which that's ridiculous.
Yep.
Or the the South won the war, whatever. Slavery wasn't real.
Right.
All that kind of
Yeah.
crap. There are there's specific language in it about if there's any classroom talk about sexuality or immunodeficiency disorder, like it specifically goes into HIV. It specifically talks about sexuality and HIV,
Right.
that you can pull your kid out of that. And that's the fact that it's played out there in plain English is kind of, makes my spidey sense go off.
Well, I'm reading an article from Florida Politics. This is from, it doesn't tell me. But it talks about, let's see, January 13th. The legislation blocks students from receiving medical care unless schools have their parents' consent or in the event of a medical emergency. The bill could give parents additional authority. Those words pop up in here. Like, who did you talk to write this article?
Hey, guys.
Could give parents additional authority to object to classroom materials and opt out their children out of learning some health education information like sexual orientation or HIV/AIDS. So I don't want my kid to know that gay people exist. So they just don't go. I can say you don't get to go to that. You don't have to go to that
You're not
class.
going to health class or anything. Yeah. It's so dumb. It's really dumb. And but the sad thing is like HIV, Florida has the highest HIV diagnosis rate in the nation. Like, why the hell aren't we making this mandatory that our kids have to listen to this shit? Because they need to know. It's important. And there are other issues. So you're talking about the medical bit, and
Yeah.
it's a little concerning because there are a lot of things that you can get tested for or checked out by a medical professional that you don't need your parents' permission for, including like pregnancy tests, STI testing, substance abuse issues, mental health counseling. And some of that stuff will no longer, you're going to have to get parental consent beforehand. Like some of that is covered by federal statute, so it's off the table, but not all of it. So there are some tests that you have to get parental permission before you get tested for. Yeah, it's silly. It's stupid. I hate it. I think there are a few other things in this bill. It's insane.
Yeah, one of the things that drives me nuts about this is like, again, the idea of like less information is better in some universe, alternate universe, I guess. Like,
yeah.
Like I fight this fight all the time about comprehensive sex ed, and Florida is an abstinence-only state, and boy, we sure do love that. But again, like withholding information from kids is the worst thing we could be doing. Like
they're gonna find out
if you want to pass legislation that forces college campuses to host controversial viewpoints and speakers, which is also flooding through the South, but many state legislatures. You have to let fucking what's his name, Milo Yiannopoulos, come in and speak at your college. Where's my opposing viewpoint here? Oh, well, you want to teach creation alongside evolution and have your cake and eat it too. But when it's, I want to teach your kid how their body works, well, we can't do that. No, we can't do that. Cancel that. Cancel that. Cancel culture.
Cancel. and this is something that we talked about the other night, is that, so this bill was bad, but there's now criminal penalties for teachers and counselors and educational professionals who do not comply. And there's not much in terms of like it's fairly subjective, I guess you could say. Like there's no, what counts as like a penalty, or what will be penalized and what will not be.
Right.
Is saying no, like I can't divulge that without knowing whether it's a real request, or, mistakenly saying no, is that going to get you jail time or a fine or something? So there are penalties involved with this too. So now we're going after our teachers who, geez, let's give the people a break.
Right.
They have enough to do.
Right?
They deal with my kids.
They were the heroes of the past. I mean, what is it? Today is a year from when the schools shut down. Like it's been a year to the day, to the last time our kids were in school.
Mhm.
Most of them.
Mhm.
Yeah, let's like seriously, we're trying to make things harder on the teachers. There's also an anti-union bill that goes after teachers unions and
Mhm.
all
Yeah.
kinds of garbage stuff in the
It's
legislature.
so
Now, this one died. It was there last year too. It died in a Senate committee.
Mhm. It's not going to happen this year.
Right.
This is probably going to go through, and so we are we as like a advocacy team that we're working with, we are going to focus on this bill. There are lots of other groups that are against this, so there's a lot of good people fighting this.
Right.
We just need more good people that
Yeah.
can convince some representatives and senators. So yeah, Bill of Wrongs, we're coming for you.
Yeah. I worry so much about some of this stuff and the precedent that it sets.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah,
a lot.
it's really frustrating. But also like having grown up in the, rural Midwest, I understand. I get it. I understand what these
I
parents are thinking
do
when they
too.
support things like this.
I do too.
I came from there. Like I get
Yeah,
it.
and the way that they've been like advertising this bill is that it's super like you just have more say in your child's education and what your child's doing at school. I want to be involved in my child's education. I want to know what's going on at their school. So yeah, sure, I'm for this. But then when you get into the nitty gritty of it,
Let me
it's
read you the paragraph out of this Florida Politics
please
article
do.
that you are unknowingly quoting.
Oh,
This
sure.
bill would block state or other governments from limiting a parent's right to direct the moral and religious upbringing, education, health care, and mental health of his or her child. That's the sell.
What do they think happens at school?
Right?
I, I, I mean, there's been
They teach them about sex, Devon.
I wish they taught me about sex. Good lord. I mean, come on. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a while since I've been in school, but I, it wasn't that bad.
Right.
God. Oh, so much. There's so much. Let's
Yep.
move on to something else.
And again, and then we'll move on. There's so much. We're legislating so much for a group of people that otherwise says like, oh, the government shouldn't be doing anything.
Stay out of my business.
We should be uninvolved and not doing anything. And
Mhm.
yeah, no big government. Anyway,
Yeah.
okay, what's next? What's the next one?
Okay, another set of bills we're going to focus on. There's actually 3 bills. We're going to ignore one of them because. Okay, so this is H1475, HB 1475. It's sponsored by Kaylee Tuck, who is a brand new representative. She's very young. She was in the education committee that just voted
Okay.
for the vote of silence, and Kelly Stargell in the Senate.
She's mine. She's
yours.
Yeah.
2012 is the number, and this is one of a set of bills that has been going across the nation right now. It's a trans sports ban, and I mean, it is what it is. It's trying to ban trans kids from participating in sports, which I don't know. I was a swimmer growing up. Some of my best memories growing up were being on a sports team, and I could not give a crap or like what gender, whatever you were. It was just fun, and you learn so much. And so yeah, we're trying to take this away from kids. So this is something that we are looking into right now. There are obviously people against this. I need to read over the bill more in depth, but it's kind of identical to what you're seeing in other states as well. So
Fairness in Women's Sports Act.
yeah, it's also like sexist. I don't like.
Here,
I
let
don't
me
know.
let me read through some of it.
Please do.
It is the intent of the legislature to provide opportunities for female athletes to demonstrate their skill, strength, and athletic abilities, while also providing them with the opportunities to obtain recognition and accolades, college scholarships, and the numerous other long-term benefits that result from the success in athletic endeavors, and to promote sex equality by requiring the designation of separate sex-specific athletic teams or sports. Now, I have often said I don't understand. Look, I'm not a sports ball person, and you're not either. But like, why do we sex segregate sports to start with? There are other better ways to divide them up. Like,
Yeah.
anyway.
I don't know, skill level. That's one thing.
Yeah, that's what I go to.
I could beat a lot of the guys. Like, why is this something that's yeah?
That's the sexist part, Devin, because you're a girl and girls can't do things that boys can do.
a boy's name.
You can't do them as well.
It's true. It's so true.
God.
Yeah. So this is just, again, egregious. Why? I mean, this is in response to like the Bostock decision, which is like gender equality in employment, and so now we're coming for your kids, y'all. So, and I think the Equality Act in the House it touches upon this as well, like in the education level, and so this is the state's way of protecting their religious.
Right.
It's religious freedom. Let's be honest. There's no other objection to the LGBTQ community than something that's something that's based on religion.
I think it comes from a place of religion, but there are definitely some parents that are like, oh, you're taking opportunities away from my daughter by having this boy who thinks he's a girl. Okay. Interscholastic, intercollegiate, intramural, and club athletic teams or sports that are sponsored by a public primary or secondary school, a public post-secondary institution, or any school or institution whose students or teams compete against a public school or public post-secondary institution shall be expressly designated as one of the following based on biological sex: males, men, or boys; 2, females, women, or girls; 3, co-ed or mixed. Let's make them all co-ed.
Just make it all co-ed. Oh my God.
Athletic teams or sports designated for females, women, or girls may not be open to students of the male sex. A dispute regarding a student's sex shall be resolved by the student's school or institution by requesting that the student, here we go, provide a health examination and consent form or other statement signed by the student's personal healthcare provider, which must verify the student's biological sex. The healthcare provider may verify the student's biological sex as part of a routine sports physical examination by relying only on one or more of the following.
Oh, let's tell MDs how to do their job.
The student's reproductive anatomy, the student's genetic makeup. We're going to genetically test kids? Are you fucking kidding me?
In a routine physical? Yeah,
Jesus Christ.
Great.
The student's normal androgynously produced testosterone levels. Now we're going to test for that too. So here, this has been my argument all along, okay? Mm-hmm. As humans, we all have varying levels of sex hormones.
Mm-hmm.
We do. So if you're going to say, oh, this kid has a penis and testosterone, so it doesn't matter what, they can't play on the girls' team. Are you testing all of the quote-unquote girls on the girls' team to make sure their testosterone isn't above a certain level too? No, of course you're not. This isn't about that.
No, it's not at all. It's not at all. Yeah,
And your doctor.
This is so invasive.
It's so
invasive.
invasive.
It's invasive. And especially, it's like, if it was, I'm not gonna give this bill any like slack or anything.
Yeah.
But it's like primary school up through like high school. Come on. Why are we? Little kids don't care.
No, they don't. They're playing.
Care.
Now I get, and I disagree with. But I get that when you're in high school, like your junior, senior year, whatever, like colleges are scouting and that kind of bullshit, which I think is wrong.
Mhm.
So like, okay, I get that, whatever, maybe, but like, again, does it really make that big a difference?
Yeah. It's God. I did not do myself up tonight for this because I am so disheartened on like all the bills. I remember I think we were talking like a few months ago. I'm like, there's some really good bills coming through this year. Like I think it was our first free thought that we did together with
Yeah.
Deb. I was like, we got some good stuff coming through, guys. This is gonna be great. Now it's like I I barely have clothes on. I don't know what's happening. Like I am so like I am so defeated, and it's only the second week of session.
Let's
Come
talk
on.
about let's continue this bill. Let's talk about civil remedies, right? Here's your cause of action.
Great.
Any
Perfect.
student who is deprived of an athletic opportunity or suffers any direct or indirect harm as a result of a violation of this section shall have a private cause of action for injunctive relief, damages, and any other relief available under law against the school or public post-secondary institution. So this is Shannon didn't get to be on the sports ball team, the softball team or whatever because my kid who's a trans girl got to be on the team or whatever. Like
Maybe
what?
Shannon should get just a little bit better next.
I just and I don't know. Maybe I get it, but not really. Like it's fucking sports. Like
Who cares? Who cares?
99% of these kids are not going to go on to a professional career in sports. They may
Not
it
even
may
that,
help
not
them
even that,
it
but-
may help them pay their college tuition, which I think is bullshit too. Like that shouldn't be a thing either. We shouldn't be like college is a for-profit institution and I have a problem with that. But like
Totally is.
I'm sorry y'all. I just don't get into the sports ball thing. I just don't.
Agreed.
And it was hard for me to give a damn about this bill and bills like it. Because we've seen these over, the last few years. It was hard for me to care because I don't care about sports because I don't play sports, I don't watch sports, I don't like sports. I just don't care.
Yeah.
But this is some egregious stuff. Any student who is subject to retaliation or other adverse action by a school, post-secondary institution, or athletic association or organization as a result of reporting a violation of this section, yada, 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 shall have a private cause of action for injunctive relief, damages, or any relief available under law.
I mean, do we get to tar and feather the trans kid when it's all said and done? Like, what the hell? Like,
I'm not that far yet, but probably.
Jesus. Like, yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm not so much into sports ball, but I was an athlete back in the day, and so I'm gonna be honest. I couldn't have given I don't believe there were any trans kids on my team, but like I couldn't have given a shit if there was.
And
Like,
you probably wouldn't have known if there was.
I probably wouldn't have known. Who cares? I think if you ask 99.999% of the kids on teams,
They're not going to care.
Who cares? Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Like,
So what you're
40.
gonna hear when this shit comes up, you're gonna hear from parents who my little Shannon didn't get to play whatever. Like they're gonna trot that stuff out. Again, all of the bills generally that come out against trans people for whatever are addressing a problem that doesn't exist. And causing more problems for the trans people.
Yeah, it's cruel. The point is to be cruel and inhumane, and they are doing a damn fine job of it this year.
Yep.
So
I think I said this. I can't remember if I said this online. I know I said it in the meeting, but let me take a step back because a lot of what this is about. What this specific bill, I'm here to tell you, isn't about trans boys. Because nobody ever thinks about female to male. Nobody ever thinks about that. This is about boys playing on girls' teams. Ooh, scary, whatever. That's what it's about, right? We got to protect our women and children.
We're not freaking shrinking violets.
And so like look up. So Chris Mosier was on my personal podcast several years ago, and I think it's a time to give him a call back maybe and dig into this with him. He is a trans athlete. He is actually the trans athlete that was instrumental in changing the International Olympic Committee's rules on when trans people can participate in the Olympics. There were rules about how whether or not you had surgery, and I believe he got the surgery component removed. There's rules about like, and before I move on, because a lot of people can't afford those surgeries. They're real fucking expensive. And then you have to be healthy enough to have that surgery. Now, assuming if you're a sports person, you're healthy enough to play sports, you're healthy enough to have the surgery, but you don't know. So there's like all of those gatekeeping hoops that you have to jump through with all of that too. So they got that removed, and then there was, there's a requirement that like you have to be on cross-sex hormones for at least a year. That's enough time to suppress testosterone and supplement estrogen and progesterone to make enough of a difference that like your body changes.
Oh yeah.
I'm here to tell you, I lived it, right?
Tell me more.
I am at 204 and I can't lose a pound to save my life anymore, no matter what I do.
Welcome to womanhood.
It's bullshit. It's bullshit. So anyway, but yeah, they never think of guys like Chris who were assigned female at birth, transitioned to male, and is competing with males. Now, if you want to play this bullshit game of, well, you have to be quote unquote biologically whatever to compete on that particular team, what you're saying then, and nobody ever thinks this far through, you're saying that guys like Chris have to compete on the girls' team. And if your goal is to keep men from competing against the girls, then you're not doing it. This fails on that mark.
Yeah,
you're competing. You're attacking trans girls. That's all this is.
Yep. Yeah, they've got their blinders on for this one. It's again, it's short-sighted. It's completely short-sighted. It's just trying to, I don't know. This is what's in vogue at the moment within the evangelical world.
Yes.
And so they need to kowtow to their whatever political gods, I guess. I don't know. But like, okay, so let's say this goes through.
Right.
I mean,
right.
Let's envision the scenarios.
Yes, I was getting ready to say there's a part of me that's like, okay, fine, pass it. And when some trans boy is relegated to the girls' team and dominates the fuck out of them, which is what everybody assumes is going to happen. But like, okay, in that case, I want it to happen because I want it to fucking backfire. And then you'll go, oh, wait a minute, that's not what I meant.
Sorry. Yeah, God. There's so many of these.
Speaking of sports ball, let's touch on this one and then we'll wrap it up for the night. Huh? Okay. So speaking of sports ball, there's another bill that is a direct, and we've talked about this before, but I'm going to talk about it again next week. So just a short primer. That would allow, it's in response to a lawsuit that's been going on for several years. It would allow sports ball teams to have like uninterrupted time on the PA system before the game.
What are we selling advertising time now? What is happening?
Right. And it's like, okay, it's like your moment of silence. Okay, here's your 2 minutes, and the High School Athletic Association can't tell you what to do with that time. We can't we can't edit your content, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Now next week, Allie and I are going to talk to Monica Miller from the American Humanist Association. And my first question on this is unconstitutional, right? Like,
seems that way.
Because it sure seems that way. Like the courts have decided strongly on several occasions that like prayer over the loudspeaker is
Mhm.
government speech. You're at a
Mhm.
public ball game. That is government speech, and you can't do that. Like
Yeah.
that has been clearly decided.
Totally.
And so I don't know if I don't know if that's going to move forward. Is that going to get, the time of day, or is somebody going to come along and go, "Psst, you can't do that?" I don't know.
Yeah. So far, it's not moving, but I mean, it quacks like the bite of an elephant. So I think it's. Run it all back.
You waited.
Yeah,
You waited until I picked up
did.
my drink. God,
I
you
totally
suck.
did. I know. So yeah,
Ugh.
I mean,
Got rum out coming out my nose now.
It's okay. Rum? What?
Rum. Yeah,
I've been drinking water this whole time.
that's not.
So so full of shit. Yeah, no. So far, it's not going anywhere. But then again, I also tend to think that they look to see how these other bills go, like the moment of
Right.
silence. Well, that's going through. Then maybe we can do this
Right.
2 minutes of ad time for church. Oh, I can't wait for some asshole kid to just
Right.
come in and be like, "It's my turn. It's my turn, bitches. Give me the mic."
Well-
and just go off.
Again, we'll talk about this in more depth next week, but the lawsuit, the case that brought this up is actually two Christian football teams that were two Christian schools that were playing each other.
Mhm.
But they report up to the Florida High School Athletic Association, which is a state governed thing.
Yep.
And so now it's church, state, religion, government separation issues. So yeah, even though you're both Christian schools, you don't get to do it.
We know you're Christian, guys. Okay, we
Yep.
know.
We know you prayed in the locker room. That's fine too. Whatever.
Just
Yeah, but we don't
flying in
need
our
it.
faces.
But we don't need it over the loudspeaker.
Yeah.
And presumably everybody in attendance is Christian too, right? You come into this. These are the arguments I'm expecting them to
Yeah.
make. I haven't really. I don't know. We'll see if Monica has looked into that case and what the arguments were. Maybe I will between now and then. But I would be interested to see what sort of arguments they were making,
Yeah.
other than this is something we always do, and we're both Christian schools, and so if we agree, what's the problem? That sort of thing.
Yeah, it worked for Bladensburg Cross, right? It's always been there. It's no longer.
How dare
religious.
you? How dare you bring up the
I did. I brought it up.
Bladensburg? Anything else? Is there any other legislation that's going on that we need to?
I'm recovering.
I mean,
right
there's
now.
so much.
There's so much. I'm in recovery mode today and yesterday and today. So coming out of my depressive type funk from that freaking unanimous vote. So
yeah, that's tough.
So yeah, it's all good. Things are going to get better next week. I just know it. Things will be great.
You should pray. You should pray about it. You should just take 2 minutes. And you don't have to pray. You could pray if you wanted to, but you should take 2 minutes.
Minimum 1, at most 2.
I'm going to set the timer. Let's do it right now. I'm not going to do it right now. I'm kidding.
Sleep.
Right, as all 3 viewers click off. Right. So do you have anything coming on? Anything exciting happening soon?
Gosh, we do. Okay. We are doing I think I talked about this last week. We're doing a musical showcase, our group, the Humanists of Tallahassee.
Yes.
We are doing a benefit for the International Rescue Committee, which is the only secular State Department approved agency that assimilates refugees into the U.S. So in Tallahassee, they bring in refugees from the political refugees and asylum seekers from the Congo, the DRC, and they kind of get them used to life in America. And with now that Trump's out of office, then Biden has reinstated the limits or taken off those bans, we are now expecting quite a few refugees to come into Tallahassee. And so we are collecting funds for the IRC, and we will have the Rough and Tumble, the Honey Badgers, Daily Fair, Tyler Donsky, Rupert Waits, Pratik. Crap, I don't have my notes in front of me. Other people. So it's going to be live streamed on our Facebook page and on our YouTube channel. That's the Humanists of Tallahassee, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern on Saturday, March 20th.
Awesome. That's just like right around the corner.
It's a week from now.
Also around the corner, a little farther than that, I should feel like we should mention that the American Atheist Convention is going online this year, as many conventions have.
April.
It's
So excited.
so you can go to convention.atheists.org to find out more about that and join us there. Again, it's all virtual. Lots
Be
of
there the whole time.
lots of speakers. I will be there most of the time.
I'm
I
never
think.
leaving. I'm there every second. I will be probably.
Oh my gosh, you probably will be.
It probably will
Of course, it's on part of it. I'll be there for because looking at my work schedule of when I'll be there. But let's see, some of our featured speakers: Representative Jared Huffman,
Big fan.
Oh, huge fan. California's 2nd Congressional District Representative, co-founder and co-chair of the Congressional Freethought Caucus, which is an awesome thing that we have in the nation's capital, and something that we are, several of us, working towards establishing here in Florida too. It would sure be great to have a secular caucus here in Florida.
Getting there.
You have other wonderful names like Catherine Stewart, who's appeared on this show, Mandisa Thomas, from Black Nonbelievers, who's appeared on the show, Matt Dillahunty. Who else? Seth Andrews. A lot of great speakers.
It's gonna be good.
So be there. Go to
be good.
convention.atheists.org.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for hanging out and going through all of that trauma.
Hey, I relive trauma every day. It's what I do best. So I thrive on this shit.
Awesome. Well, hey, better days ahead and
yeah,
and even crappier bills ahead.
Can't wait. I'm looking forward to it.
But we'll face them together.
For a team.
Next week. Go fight win. Oh, should we get jerseys now? Next week on the show, Allie Ashmead is my co-host, and we'll be joined by Monica Miller from she's the legal director and senior counsel with the American Humanist Association. She will be a repeat visitor on the show as well. Always a good time talking to Monica, and we're going to talk about that case that brought the American Humanist Association together with Alliance Defending Freedom, which they're usually like mortal enemies. But it's a case about college campus free speech and religious expression.
What?
And AHA and ADF were together on this one, so
that's insane.
It's a big deal. And we're going to talk about some of these school bills that have been filed that we've talked about maybe briefly, but maybe a little bit more of a deep dive. So that's next Friday night at 6:30 Eastern, 3:30 Pacific. Please join us for that, and be prepared to call in, man. I'm sitting here waiting for phone calls. I really want to hear from y'all.
Ask me anything.
There you go. All right. So that's it for Freethought in Florida this week. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, and all the popular podcast players. You can find the subscribe links at our website, fif.show. And send us an email at info@fif.show. Please like, subscribe, share out the episodes, and help us grow the audience. And of course, remember the 3 most important things, now revised. Wash your hands, wear your mask, and be kind to each other.
Be nice, everybody.
And be safe. We'll see you next time on Freethought in Florida.